Okay. Is my screen visible to everyone?
No.
Okay,
Yes.
there are two
Yes.
KitKat labs. There are two KitKat labs, so you have to go to the other one.
I can
Okay.
see it now.
So, okay, you can see it now?
Yes, we can
Okay.
see now.
I can't station if you're not
So there
starting.
are so there are two KitKat labs. You have to be careful to which you are pinning yourself to.
Yeah, got it.
Got it? Okay. So I think I have already done respiration with one of the batch, the 11th batch, and the respiration was pending with the Kalyani Nagar batch. So this is going to be like a revision for y'all because it's been quite some time that we have done this topic. So it will be a revision for both of y'all, plus for the new students who are our previous students and have joined us for the class. Okay, so basically. Respiration is a very vast topic. It's a very big topic. For small kids, we say, what is respiration? So we explain them breathing. We don't really go into the meaning of respiration. So, what exactly is respiration? Respiration is two processes. One is the external breathing, and one is the internal breathing. So, the external breathing, you are doing it as a whole human being. As a whole human being, you are taking in air and you're removing out air. Now, what is the fun of doing taking in air and removing out air? You're not gaining anything. No, you do gain. You are taking in air rich with oxygen. So when you're taking in air, that air contains around 20 to 21% of oxygen. And when you release the air outside again, at that time the air is containing only 15 to 16% of oxygen. So that is what you mean by taking in and taking out of air. So that is the first external breathing that we see, and that is what we explain to small kids. If they're very small kids, we say, what is breathing? What is respiration? So they'll say that, okay, we are taking in oxygen, we are removing carbon dioxide. It is not that the case. You're taking in air, you're taking in air. See, can you selectively take oxygen inside? No, you're taking in complete air. So the air composition is what? The air composition is 78% or 80% approximately nitrogen. There is 20 to 21% of oxygen. There is carbon dioxide also 0.03%. There are some noble gases also. So all these things are there in the air. So you're taking the whole package together. Your nose is not a filter which is filtering in only oxygen. It is not happening that way. You're taking in completely, correct? And when you're removing outside again, so when you're removing outside, you're removing out again air. But what has happened is that the oxygen that you took in was utilized by your body. The oxygen was utilized by your body, and that body has now converted that oxygen into carbon dioxide. Now, what that process happened is the internal respiration, is what is happening in each and every cell of the body. So, we'll go a little bit deep into it in the entire presentation. Okay, so remember two things: external respiration and internal respiration, external breathing and internal breathing. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. So here the definition is given that it is respiration is a process in which, see, here the real definition is given. Okay, the respiration is a process by which energy is released from the body. So what do we say? How do we get energy? We get energy by eating food. But here we are proving that thing wrong. No, energy we are getting from food, correct? But to break that food down, you are needing oxygen. You need oxygen to break down that food. Whatever food you have is going down into your digestive system. So your entire digestive system is going to pick up the good food. So how does a digestive system work? You take it into your mouth, it goes into the esophagus, it goes into the stomach. From the stomach, it goes into the small intestine. In the small intestine, what happens? All the good food is being absorbed by the villi. The villi are absorbing all the good food, and all the unwanted food is being thrown out to the next step, that is the big intestine. Now that villi that extracted the good food is entering it into the blood. Now once it puts it into the blood, that blood is like a transport mechanism. That blood is like a lift system or like an escalator. It is making that food, that small particles, reach to each and every cell in your body. There are millions of cells in the body, millions and millions of cells in the body. All those million cells are getting the food, correct? So the work of digestion is to get the food that can be usable to each and every body cell. Now, what is the work of the breathing system? The breathing system is helping us to get the oxygen to each and every part of the cell. To each and every part of the cell, the oxygen is going into. So you have got two main components from the food. You're getting the you're getting the small parts of food that can be utilized. That is one part of it that you're getting. And the second is that you're getting oxygen from the breathing system. Okay. Now, these two components have reached into your each and every cell. Now it goes into a cellular level. In the cell, each and every of this goes into a process where it goes into the mitochondria. We know mitochondria is the energy house of the cell. So that mitochondria is going to pick up the food, is going to pick up the oxygen, and it's going to make a reaction happen. So we know, some of us may be knowing the reaction C6H12O6, that is carbohydrates, plus 6O2, that is oxygen, is becoming CO2 plus H2O plus energy. And that energy is being released in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. It is being released in that form of energy. So now we'll read the respiration definition once more again. Respiration is the process by which energy is released from food in our body. Understood now how energy is being released from the food in our body? The function of the respiratory system is that we breathe in oxygen so that we are producing energy from the food. And in that process of making the food, what did we make? From C6H12O6 and O2, we made CO2. So now that CO2 that is there is not utilized by our body, we don't need it. So that CO2 has to be thrown out again. So again, the way O2 came into the blood, that same way CO2 has to go into the blood and has to be forced out of the body by the external respiration method. So this is how the respiration is taking place. And respiration is not only just breathing that we tell to small kids, to the small nursery kids. No, it is a very deep process. It is a process of external plus internal, and internal is the one that is more important to us, for us to consider whether we are able to break down the food or no at each and every cell level. So here what happens, I'll give you one antidote of it. What happens is that a lot of time when you're sitting in particular position, when you're sitting with, that in that yoga asana for a very long time, and you start getting cramps, you get cramps in your legs, or probably your hand is there for a very long time, then you get cramps in your hands out there. So what happened is that food has reached that body part, but because you had pressed that body part for a very long time, the blood supply did not come into there. If the blood supply hasn't come there, then along with the blood supply, even the oxygen supply did not come. So if the oxygen supply did not come, now the food is going to break down. Food will break down, but it will break down without oxygen. Now, when it is breaking down without oxygen, it is not producing CO2. It is not going to produce CO2. It is going to produce, instead of that, it is going to produce acid. So that acid gets accumulated in your that particular part that is being pressed. And that part, then you will start to basically, that acid causes itching to you and you feel that there are cramps. So that will last for some time till your entire blood supply does not come to normal. Once your blood supply comes back to normal, then what happens is that again oxygen comes, and again the process by the mitochondria to uh, do the internal respiration along with oxygen continues. So that is how you get cramps in your body when you are uh, sitting in a position for a long time, or even for that matter, even I think athletes, they advise athletes also that you should have continuous water, or you should have something or the other while doing physical strenuous exercise, so that the part that you're physically straining a lot, that will get a continuous supply of oxygen. Okay. Next. So this is the process of breathing in and breathing out. Now, when we are breathing in, now we'll go to the external breathing. We'll just study a little bit more about it. The external breathing, what we're going to do, we're going to take in the air. We'll take it through our nose. Right? We take it through our nose and then we expel it out. So when you are taking it in, inside your body, the scientific term that we use for it is called as inhalation. So inhalation is when you are breathing in air, and when you are breathing air out, you call it as exhalation. If you see the left side picture, in the left side picture, you are exhaling, you are inhaling the air inside. When you're inhaling the air inside, it goes into the lungs. Can you see the lung is become very, very big? Okay, and that lung is becoming big because it is getting filled up with the air, and there is a diaphragm. There's a red color diaphragm out there. Now that diaphragm is basically a a wall kind of it's a wall for the abdomen. See, our body is just hollow inside. Okay, so it has to separate the different systems. So this diaphragm is separating the respiratory system from the digestive system. So this diaphragm is kind of flexible. Okay, so the minute you're breathing air inside, the lungs are expanding, even the diaphragm will go down. The diaphragm will go below. So diaphragm will go below because it has to accommodate the size of the lung. It has to make the lung slightly bigger because it has inhaled air. So that is going to happen. When you are exhaling outside, the right side picture, the diaphragm will return back to its position. See, the lung also has become smaller and the air is thrown outside. Okay, so this process of inhalation and exhalation together is what we term it as breathing. Breathing is the joint process of inhalation and exhalation together. Okay, I hope this is very clear with you all. We'll go to the next slide.
Like diaphragms cause hiccup because a disturbance in the diaphragm really tries to expel it, tries to, I don't know, take it out in a sense. I checked on Google.
I didn't
It lied to me.
I didn't get your point, Ved.
Um,
Can you speak a little bit louder? I didn't get your point.
Sorry. See, if you search up diaphragm, what causes hiccups?
Hiccups. Okay.
Yeah. It's
What causes
the diaphragm.
the diaphragm? The abnormal functioning of the diaphragm.
Yeah.
Okay. I I think the diaphragm. I think the hiccups. The main reason for the start of an hiccup is uh, probably an acidic reflux attack. Probably. So when an acidic reflux attack takes place, so at that time the diaphragm probably must be going up and down because of the acid reflux up and down. That could be the case. I don't know exactly the whole thing, but this is approximately the thing. But I think since you have read so much into it, could you give us a little bit more brief on Thursday about what exactly is causing hiccups? With
Sure.
okay, okay. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so we know that oxygen is there in the air. Definitely, yes, it is there in the air. Uh, but after being in the air, also imagine there is our atmosphere, and that atmosphere is having the oxygen. Now we are using the entire oxygen. Now, if there is supposing say 100 particles of oxygen in the air, we have used that. So we need to reproduce it again, right? It has to be produced again so that we can use it. So this give and take is happening by the plants. So we are taking an oxygen from the atmosphere that was released in the atmosphere by the plants. So the plants in their process of photosynthesis. So the when the plants do photosynthesis, they release out oxygen. So they are doing an entirely opposite process of respiration. They are releasing out oxygen, and we in the process of respiration are releasing out carbon dioxide, which the plants are used which the plants are using for the process of photosynthesis. So it is like a give and take that we are carrying out between the green plants, between the plants that carry out photosynthesis. So any greenery, any green part of the plant will be carrying out photosynthesis. They will require carbon dioxide as their raw material. That is, so they're taking in all the carbon dioxide which was there in the air, and they are using it for the process of photosynthesis, and they're releasing out oxygen. So that oxygen is now being utilized by us. So it is kind of like we say that the plants are the atmospheric purifiers. So we need to plant a lot of plants around us. In fact, in your house also, if possible, you should have a lot of uh, uh, plants so that you can get fresh air. Basically, fresh air should come into the house also. Okay,
Um,
so
is that why they call the Amazon rainforest the lungs of the earth? Because there are so many trees?
I did not get your point, Ria. Can you say again?
It's like I heard in a book that they call the Amazon rainforest in South America the lungs of the earth. Is it because the Amazon rainforest has so many trees? That's how it's producing a lot of oxygen.
The oxygen produced from the Amazon rainforest will not reach to India. So you need to
Not to
have a lot of,
India.
yeah. So you
Not
need
to
to have a lot of.
India.
Okay, so you're talking about there only. Actually, your voice is breaking, so I could hear
Oh,
only up till Amazon rainforest part. I cannot hear after that.
I just read in a book that it's called the Amazon rainforest. It's called the lungs of the earth. So I was wondering why.
Can you type it? Can you type it? I can't hear you. Your voice is breaking. It is called what?
Ma'am, I can hear her perfectly fine. So she said that she read in books. She
Hmm.
says that when she reads in books, she finds that it's called the lungs of the earth. Is that because it's Excuse me.
The it's
Is that
called the lungs of the it's called the
so?
lungs of the earth.
Yeah. Is that because it has so many trees? That's what Ria
Yes,
was trying to say.
yes, Ria. That is why it is called. That's why it's called the lungs. So they are basically the lungs of the earth. Yes, exactly true. Okay. So this is
Okay, thank
how.
you.
Okay. So thank you, Ria, for the extra information. So the oxygen carbon dioxide cycle is what we just discussed. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, so if we consider the respiratory parts, which parts are there? So you start from the first thing, that is the nose. Okay, nose and the mouth. So you don't exactly inhale continuously from the nose. You can inhale from the mouth also. Okay, but that is very little. There is more of inhalation happening through the nose. Okay, from there, that entire air is going to pass through the nose. Now in the nose, there are a lot of cilia. There's a lot of hair. What does that do is that is going to clear the air from all the dirt particles, so that the dirt particles don't enter into your internal body part. So all the dust particles, or any such kind of, for that matter, even for that matter, some viruses also. So they try to stop those at that level, at that particular level, at the nose level, and they will make that clean air reach to the next part, that is the trachea. The trachea is nothing but like your windpipe. Okay, so uh, in our neck region, there are two pipes. One is the windpipe, and one is the food pipe. The windpipe is what we call as the trachea, and the food pipe is what we call as the esophagus. Okay, now the food pipe is always open. The food pipe is always has a open, it's like a hollow thing, but the air pipe has a covering on it, just where you can see the red and the blue coloring of the internal. Yes, they're exactly there. There is a covering, and that covering is called as the epiglottis. So what happens is that when you are eating food, the body by its own mechanism closes the windpipe, so that the food that you're eating does not enter into the uh, sorry, did I say it closes the food pipe? It closes the windpipe. So the food that you're eating is not going into the air pipe. So if the food will not go into the air pipe, it will completely go into the food pipe, and it will go into your digestive system. Because if in case something gets into your air pipe, there is a possibility that you can die. So a lot of times, you say that we are choking off, a child eats something and he chokes off, or something gets into the air pipe of the child. Or then if supposing you are eating and you talk sometimes, and then you get a cough kind of a thing. So that why it happens is because your food by mistakenly goes into the air pipe, and that pipe throws it back again. It will not allow any food particle to enter inside the air passage. Okay, so now we have gone from the mouth to the trachea. Now once it's gone into the trachea, after the trachea, it branches out into two branches, and those are called as the bronchioles. Now those two bronchioles, small pipes, are covered with a layering, and they are now called as the lungs. So basically inside the lungs you will see a lot of pipes, lots and lots and lots of pipes. And for that matter, if you know, lung uh, is the lightest part of the body that can float, or basically the only part of the body that can float. Any other part of the body, you put it in water, it is going to sink down. The lung is very, very spongy, and it has to remain spongy, so that the function of that sponginess is for absorption of the oxygen and again releasing out the carbon dioxide. So that should remain, which will reduce when people use a lot of uh, smoking or drinking. A lot of times, if you have seen on the TV, they show ads, that the lung completely gets choked up, becomes black in color if people go into too much of that side. So the functioning of the lung will stop. Okay, so we've come to the from the trachea, we've come to the bronchioles. In the bronchioles, finally, so it's like, I tell always that trachea is like a highway. It's like a highway. From the highway, you're taking a right turn and you're taking a left turn into probably a sub lane. From the sub lane, you're going more into more smaller lanes, more smaller lanes, until you reach your house. So your house is something where the air will finally go, and that house part that is there will be called as the alveoli. So it is the alveoli where the entire blood supply is coming. So it's the alveoli where your air has to finally reach from the trachea into the bronchioles of the lungs into the alveoli. That is the journey it has to carry out. So once it reaches the alveoli, here there is a supply of good blood and bad blood. Means there is a supply of arteries, the good blood, and there's a supply of veins, the bad blood. Now, why do we say good blood, arteries? Because that blood will now contain the oxygen. That blood will, all the oxygen from the air will enter into the arteries. And from the veins, all the carbon dioxide will go into back into the alveoli and they will carry the journey up again. So all the oxygen, let's go once more. Oxygen from the nose. Now I'm only considering oxygen. Air is still coming in, right? I did discuss this with you. But now I'm considering only the journey of the oxygen. So the oxygen starts from the nose. It comes into the trachea. It goes into the bronchial tubes. From the bronchial tubes, it goes into the alveoli. From the alveoli, it goes into the arteries. Okay, from arteries, now it is going to go to all the body parts. Everywhere it will go. Okay, now the veins that had carried the carbon dioxide, that carbon dioxide from the veins will enter to the alveoli. From alveoli, they will go into the bronchial tubes. From the bronchial tubes, it will go into the trachea. And from the trachea, it will go into the nose and outside the body. So this is how the entire inhalation and exhalation is happening. And it is happening so fast. It is happening so fast that it is, within milliseconds, probably there are thousands of such processes happening. We don't even realize it. Okay. So, okay. So we go to the next part now. Okay. So this is exactly in the GIF you can see, how the first on the left side you can see how the diaphragm is becoming wider and again smaller. So the diaphragm is going down. So the lungs are becoming big, the diaphragm is going up, the lungs are again becoming small. And these small round on the right side that you can see are the alveoli. So they are like small bulb kind of things, alveoli. And can you see the entire network of blood vessels around it? So oxygen is going to enter inside and carbon dioxide is going to go outside. So I suppose the red one they are showing for the oxygen and the yellow ones they're showing for the carbon dioxide going outside. So it's, see how fast it is going. Even in the GIF it is going so fast. Probably in the actual process so it is going 10 times faster than this also. Okay. So this is how the alveoli work. Okay. So I just hope you all have understood the process of the alveoli. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so we don't need to breathe that deeply. The breathing is happening. We are breathing. I forgot the number of breaths we take. I think approximately 72 or something. That is the approximate number of breaths we take in a minute. But uh, you don't even come to know. Right now, as I am talking, as you are listening, there is a lot of breath taking place. Okay, 1 second. I just need to stop 1 second. There's a lot of messages going on, okay, in the this. Are you all really interested to listen, students? Because so much time pass is going on. Those who are not interested can go outside the class. I'm very sure you all must be knowing all this. That's why you're busy writing the messages. You want me to continue, right? Or no? Those who have messaged are responsible for answering. Do you all want me to continue or no?
Yes.
Okay. So when we are breathing so normally that we don't even come to know how many breaths we have taken. So you don't normally need to breathe that deeply. Okay? We don't we don't do that. We just do it normally. Probably in some of the yoga asanas, you do that for more purification of the lungs, but not in a day-to-day life. Okay? Chalo, next. This is again the inhalation and the exhalation process. The GIF is showing it very well how the uh, see, now we'll start it again. This has the exhale. Now we'll start the inhale again. Okay. So when the inhale happens, see the diaphragm is going down. When the diaphragm is going down, the lungs are becoming big. If the lungs are becoming big, even the rib cage. Can you see the rib cage on the side? On the sides, the rib cage is there, but they are not showing the entire. They're just showing that it is there. So the entire rib cage is also moving out. The rib cage is also growing. So the rib cage is also slightly expanding. We use the word expand. The rib cage will expand, and the diaphragm will also expand, and the lungs will become bigger. Okay, and when you exhale outside, you can see now the exhale process will start. The exhaling, the rib cage is also contracting, the diaphragm is also contracting. This is the entire inhalation and exhalation process. This is the entire external breathing process that is taking place. Okay, we'll go to the next one. So this is again kind of a revision. See the entire parts of the body, the nasal cavity. From there, it is going into the trachea. From the trachea, it is going to both the lungs, the left side, the right side. From there, in the lungs, it is going to enter into the various tubules that we call as bronchioles. From the bronchioles, it is finally going to the very small ones, that is the alveoli. That is where the entire purification process takes place. Okay.
Why do they call it like the nasal cavity? Why do they call it a cavity?
Like even the body, in the body, we say abdominal cavity. So it is where the abdomen is and it is hollow inside. So we call it the abdominal cavity. That same way, the nose part, it is hollow inside and there are all the different parts inside it. So we call it the nasal cavity. For mouth also we call it the dental cavity. Because it is
Okay.
just hollow inside, we call it the cavity. Okay, next. Okay, now we come to the question part. Anyone has any doubts with this?
Yes, like when we breathe in, you say we take in nitrogen and carbon dioxide. So, what happens to that when it goes inside our lungs? Does it send it back, or is there
Yes,
a filter?
it sends it back. So the entire thing reaches up to the level of the alveoli.
Okay.
In the alveoli, only oxygen is allowed to go into the blood vessel, and only carbon dioxide is allowed to come out of the blood vessels. Rest, whatever remainder of the air is there, is again taken up along with carbon dioxide. So
Okay.
along with oxygen it came in, but along with carbon dioxide it has to go out again.
Okay.
How does COVID-19 affect the lungs?
The COVID-19 is going and blocking the lungs. It is going and not allowing the alveoli to do the process. And so the lungs are losing their ability to breathe. And that is why the COVID, we say that the patient is not able to breathe and has to be put on a ventilator.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, in the alveoli,
Hmm?
how in the alveoli,
Hmm.
how does the body know? How does the body separate oxygen from the other gases?
In the alveoli.
Yes.
Okay. For that, I want you all to think and tell me what is there in our blood? How is the oxygen traveling in the blood?
Is
How
it through
does
the
it?
red blood cells?
Yes. What is there in the red blood cells?
Oxygen and nutrients for the body?
No, no, no. What is catching that? What is catching the oxygen? The
Hemoglobin?
hemoglobin. Yes, the hemoglobin. The hemoglobin. So the hemoglobin is the one that is going to catch the oxygen or the carbon dioxide. It has the ability to catch only these two gases, and that is why it knows that it has to pick up only oxygen and uh, carbon dioxide, nothing else.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, does alcohol affect the lungs?
Yeah, it does affect the lungs because uh, how it affects. I don't know how it does, but it does affect. I can just read up through some of it and send you the links of it.
Okay.
Okay, so we have sent you a list yesterday for y'all to make a respiratory system. Considering the situation, you may have been able to get those materials, you may have not also been able to get those materials. But if y'all can just open up through that PDF which we sent, if you see the model, okay, here we are doing it with a we are considering a single lung only, okay. So what happens is when the diaphragm is pulled, when the diaphragm is pulled, the lung is going to become bigger. Okay, so the volume increases. Because the volume increases, the pressure out there decreases. Here we consider Boyle's law. There is a physical law which is called as a Boyle's law, which says that pressure and volume are inversely proportional, means they are indirectly dependent on each other. If the pressure increases, volume decreases. If the volume increases, pressure decreases. So what happens when the diaphragm is pulled down? There's a lot of volume, right? The volume of the chest cavity will increase. So because of that, the pressure on the lungs will reduce. If the pressure on the lungs is reduced, the lungs are able to expand out. Now, when the diaphragm comes back to its original position, the volume has now reduced down. So the pressure will again increase on the lungs, because of that pressure, that lungs are going to contract inside. So there is not only biology happening, there's also a physical process happening in a physiobiological process happening in our body. So the lungs are acting uh, like a pressure volume kind of a piston kind of a thing. Volume increases, pressure decreases. Volume decreases, pressure increases. This is the based on the Boyle's law. If you want, you all can search it, Boyle. It is based on the Boyle's law. So if you all do get time, please do please to get the material and try to perform the experiment if you can do it on your own, and do send us pictures. I think last time also we did not get any pictures of anyone doing the mirror, multiple mirror. If you all have done, just send us pictures so when we feel good that yes, you all have done the experiment.
Ma'am,
Don't
I've got
surprise
the
at home.
materials.
Okay, so if you do have, please, whenever you do it, do send us pictures of it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Anyone with any more doubts?
I wrote a question in chat.
Okay, I'll check it out for you. Can the diaphragm be affected by smoking? Um, don't know really, Ved, because this is more of a medical kind of an answer, but I really don't know if that is really happening or no. Because diaphragm is actually not once, I don't know if diaphragm gets affected with the smoke, will it enter into the diaphragm or no? I really don't know. What I could do is I could actually read about it and let you know the next time.
I found out. It can if it can tear a tear in the muscle will require surgery, and symptoms of a diaphragm rupture can include abdominal pain.
Okay, so basically it limits the muscular contraction of the diaphragm. Okay. Okay. So I think we should end it for the day. I think